class students, offering and thinking about Lord Ganesha and Ma Shri Saraswati. Let's begin with the teaching of subject English on online Zoom classes and video class. I'm preparing this video beginning with the first chapter of the prose section, book 1, Rainbow, chapter titled A Room 10 into 8. Please watch the video carefully, listen to the things and try to understand. And please do write the question answers as forwarded to you. Now, this lesson is based on the theme of generation gap. Generation gap describes the differences in actions, beliefs, and tastes exhibited by members of younger generations versus older ones. The lack of proper understanding and mutual love and care can widen this gap. Now, to understand this generation gap, you can consider a simple situation. In a family, the views related to any topic will always differ. The views of grandparents will always be neglected or changed by young ones. Say if there is a question related to celebrate any party, rather say any birthday party, right? What grandparents would prefer? They would prefer to prepare a good meal at home, all sit together and enjoy. What other members will think? They want to order eatables from outside. And what the younger ones will think? They want to go out to any other different place, maybe a resort for a day outing or to any restaurant and enjoy the DJ floor and eat delicious food and come back. Now see, in this situation, due to the generation gap, there is a variation in the view. Yes, when the grandparents used to have their parties, they used to celebrate in that manner only, what they have told. And nowadays, what we are having, if we want to enjoy any party, we simply what we do, we order eatables or we move out for a party. Now, this is somewhat a simple example how to make you understand about generation gap. And this generation gap widens, it grows where there is lack of mutual understanding. And when we don't take care of elders or we neglect their suggestions or opinions, this generation gap gets widened and we stop talking to them because we are not inviting their suggestions. So this is how generation gap grows. And in this chapter, we come to know about this only. This chapter, we have characters, Mr. Malik, Mrs. Malik, mother-in-law, one architect, daughter, son, and daughter-in-law. Now, reading and understanding this chapter, we will understand a family environment, a social environment, and the role of leading female in the family, that how she is behaving, how she is thinking, how she is reacting, and how at the end of the story we come to know that due to the generation gap there is a different twist in the environment or in the phase of the future of the family. Now, reading and understanding page number 7 and 8, we come to know about the overgrowing tendency of ill-treating one's own parents and grandparents by the fashionable society. Yes, fashionable society. Why it's mentioned here, fashionable society? Because society changes according to the provided facilities and the achievements of all others. Now, in this chapter, in the beginning, we are having Mrs. Malik and Mr. Malik. They are having a meeting with the architect. They were going to have a house of their own in Delhi, in the most fashionable colony. Now, having a house in the most fashionable colony means with all fashionable things, new furniture, highly equipped things in the kitchen also, and a different level of lifestyle. Now, Mrs. Malik is thinking about future. Yes, and she is also planning to settle in Delhi, even if her husband got transferred to another station. Because she thinks that now it's very difficult for her to move from one place to another, taking care of her children, and as they are growing up, it is difficult for her to maintain all the things related to their studies, to their classes. And as the student or as the child moves on to higher classes, it's really difficult to manage with their studies and future plannings. So, thinking all about that, Mrs. Malik thinks that she will settle in Delhi and she would have her mother in law for company. Now, see, here her thinking strikes the reader. She would have her mother in law for company. She is not entertaining her as a family member. She is not thinking about respecting her. She is not thinking about caring her. She is simply thinking to have her for her company. So it's really thought or tendency, overgrowing tendency of ill treating own parents or grandparents. So it's a poor thinking, isn't it? Mrs. Malik repeated and explained haltingly about the room to be used presently for mother in law and after her, that means after her death, it could be converted into a storeroom. Now, listening to her statements, the architect got puzzled and he looked puzzled also because it was difficult for him to think two different things. He was asked to plan a storeroom, and in that storeroom also she is arguing about to give more space to the storeroom and presently let it be as a room for mother-in-law. Now the architect is puzzled. He is thinking that rather Mrs. Malik is confused. She want a living room for her mother-in-law or she want a storeroom. And as we read, we come to know about Mr. Malik. He was of the opinion that the storeroom should be a little bigger so that one can move about the trunks more freely. So, see, as we read, Mr. Malik is a person of clear thought and positive approach. Yes, his opinion is very positive. And then finally, the plan was submitted for the approval of to the corporation. So just please, there's the screenshot you're having. Read the page number and try to understand it. As we read page number 8, we understand the positive features of Mrs. Malik. She is hardworking, dedicated, friendly, and a person who ensures to use best of the things. She is watchful about no wastage of material and the labor did not idle about. That means they are not sitting idle. They are supposed to do the construction work, and if they sit idle, she is standing there to monitor them and instruct them to start doing their work. And meanwhile, as she is observing, instructing, and being a watch on the construction of the house, she is thinking about future also. She insisted that she would have new furniture made for the house. And she is thinking that she will not bring any of the old thing in this new house. Everything she'll have would be new in the house. The work of the construction of the house were under progress, and meanwhile they came to know that the house had been acquired by the government. That means the government has taken the authority of the house. Now there was a change in the response of Mrs. Malik. She got angry. And Mr. Malik, as we earlier also came to know about, that he is a person of a positive approach. So what he did, that he decided a rent with the government, and he gave his under construction house to be constructed and be given on rent to the government. And they thought themselves to be lucky enough that their house had been rented to the government. Without any delay, they received the rent amount and without any complaints and demands. So, with one thought, they were feeling themselves lucky that every month in their account a fixed amount was being forwarded by the government. Then life moved on. Yes, Mr. Malik had another transfer, and with one transfer, then another transfer, then another transfer according to the job and the priorities. Years passed, and life moved on with its phases. Yes, their children got educated along with the transfers of Mr. Malik. Later on, as the time moved on, years passed on, mother-in-law also expired. Now, Mrs. Malik's daughter also got married, son also got married, and Mr. Malik also got retired from services. Now, scene was that Mr. Malik had to fight with the government for the release of the house. Fighting with the government, going on visiting to the office, filing the pages, meeting the officers. Meanwhile, Mr. Malik also passed away without being able to live in his house. Now, reading and understanding till now, we come to understand it is not always how we think and plan. Yes, isn't it? What Mrs. Malik dreamed of and planned about was not done for many years. And when the time came for it to be done practically, she was left alone. Now, she was not having Mr. Malik with her, not mother-in-law with her. Her daughter was also married, and she had his son and daughter-in-law with her to move in this house of her own in New Delhi, located in the most fashionable society. So, as we read, we learn that we must accept things as we are offered or we face them, isn't it? So, just please go through this page also and try to understand the things.